Welcome to Source Medicine. My name is Nikolay Ayerov, quantum security specialist and founder of Avo Peace.
And I'm Anita, medical herbalist, biomedical scientist, intuitive healer, and frequency medicine practitioner. Together, we explore what it means to remember that healing doesn't start with fixing something broken, but with listening to what is already whole.
Each week, we'll travel between the seen and the unseen, from ancient herbal wisdom, nutrition, and nervous system science, to energy work, polarity, and the quiet intelligence that moves through all of us.
Our conversations aren't prescriptions, they are invitations. We are not here to tell you what's true, but to help you feel truth in your own body.
So wherever you are, walking, driving, taking a rest, let it remind you that you are part of the medicine.
This is Source Medicine. Hello, everybody. In the last episode, we broke down the gut from the biological perspective. We talk about enzymes, digestion, inflammation, all of it. But here's the thing. We can have the perfect diet, the perfect supplements, and still we can feel bloated, reactive, or off. So the question is, what else is influencing the gut? Today, we go deeper into the emotional and energetic intelligence of our gut, how our body processes not only food, but also life. Already in ancient medicine, like traditional Chinese medicine or Ayurveda, the gut was deeply connected to our ability of processing emotions. Worry, overthinking, or emotional rumination are said to weaken our digestion. There is even a common pattern. The more we overthink, the more the gut becomes sluggish, sensitive, or reactive. Recall healing and other mind-body approaches take this even further. They suggest that symptoms in our gut can reflect unresolved emotional conflicts, things we couldn't fully digest or accept when they actually happened to us. It could be a situation that felt overwhelming, something that changed our sense of safety, or experience we resist internally. The gut is incredibly sensitive to our inner world. So healing the gut isn't not only about what is on our plate, but it's also about gently exploring our emotions. So Nikolay, I would like to start with one question. How our emotions that are related to food, or even emotions that we have during food preparation, could directly affect our digestive system?
Yeah, absolutely. So food and digestion is obviously, that's most people understand that to some degree, but how many people understand the emotional components of when they eat? Like, for example, if you're making the food or if you're eating out, the variable of the emotions, like for example, if you're going eat out at a restaurant, everybody always thinks about, oh, the hygiene and making sure the allergens aren't there, specific oils that you might want to avoid, basically any kind of contaminants that might be cross-contaminating into the food. A lot of people think about that. A lot of people think about, too much salt, too much sugar, whatever. But the emotional state of the cook is also a factor. And most people are like, what do you mean emotional state is a factor? I've worked in a few kitchens and there's quite a bit of sometimes frustration, yelling, doing all of this going on, and there's a lot of tension in the kitchen, right? That actually impacts food creation as well. If the cook is frustrated in some way or just kind of getting by, or he's stressed or something's going on in his life, that is inherently actually going into the food that he's making. Now, this could be, a 5-star, very, very healthy kale wrap or whatever fancy stuff you want to put on your plate, and it's actually nutritionally dense. It has all the micronutrients. It has everything in perfect balance. But if it's made with frustration, or if it's made with annoyance or something like that, it can actually cause potential irritations in your system, because now you're absorbing that just like you would be absorbing, for example, in the antibiotics that's injected into a cow. Now you're eating beef that has that antibiotics. And obviously, many people don't think about those addings, but how about the energetic component, right? Like we were saying. So I'm just using the example with a cook, but it could be a loved one, right? Or it could be anybody, or yourself even, right? Most people, women and men, have emotions around food. Emotions and food is very intertwined with how we operate. Most people defend their food options so intensely and are so resistant to change purely because of emotions.
So you
Go ahead.
think that people with food sensitivities react to food not because of the pure sensitivity, immune response, but there is an emotional pattern that makes them more susceptible to particular food? Or is it just that they have own belief about that food? That's why they
So
react to food.
though this is a case by case basis, obviously, because it's everyone's system is different, everyone's story is different, but that's 100% a possibility where sometimes if you are sensitive to something, the root cause of it, yes, it might have physical implications, like you might be sensitive to a nightshade vegetable or some kind of shellfish or whatever it is. Your body might react to it with an anaphylactic kind of experience. But at the same time, that reaction could also be the store of a emotional component that a lot of times, in my experience, in my practitioner history, as I dealt with the emotional components with people, their physical symptoms went away as well, because we'll get into the framework of what the emotional body is compared to the physical body and how they interact in the later parts. But let's start more in the preparation process of food, right? When you're making something, the state you're in is automatically influencing food. Same thing with water, right? There's Dr. Morimoto, spoke about this, the whole thing about
Water
how
memory.
yeah, basically how you can imprint memories into water, right? And then depending on what memories, it can be through a printed word that you put on or a spoken word. The vibration of that automatically imprints specific energy into the water or the food, because obviously food also has water in it, right? We are like 60 something percent water. If water can be imprinted, anything can be imprinted because essentially everything has water outside of something dehydrated. For someone who's never experienced or never even considered the fact that emotions can impact your food, what are the side effects, let's just say, of lower emotional states on food? Let's say you eat raw vegetables or something like that, which normally can cause digestive issues, or something that is very nutritionally good for you, that has nutrients, that has all the things, but you still might have some kind of irritable symptoms, right? And you're going through a process where you're taking out food because you're trying to figure out what you're sensitive to. I would invite you to think about the concept of, if you made the food, what emotional state were you in when you made that food? If someone was making it for you, also try to inquire or see what emotional state they're in while making the food. Because there's been a few studies or a few, at least anecdotal examples, that said when someone is frustrated or annoyed at and making food, it will almost inherently start making you sick, especially if you're already weakened or chronically ill in any capacity. So emotional load on top of your whatever physical stuff you're going through makes it worse. Obviously, if you're very healthy, it'll be much more challenging to see immediate, like, wow, I feel really bad. It could just be like, oh, I feel a little heavier, after eating a meal, or I feel like, wow, I'm kind of drained now. That it's not obvious. We're like, wow, that was something weird, like food poisoning, for example, which is an extreme result. But when you consume food that is energetically, let's just say, tainted, that does impact, and obviously it also builds up if you're not properly processing that emotion like you would be probably, so it will build up in your system, just like a heavy metal, just like any kind of pathogen or any kind of carcinogen that would be in any kind of processed food or something like that, that eventually builds up in your system. And if your liver and or stomach and or different organs are not processing it like they would be physical things, then you have the same issue where you're going to feel overwhelmed. You're going to feel stagnant. You're going to feel constipated. There's going to be a whole bunch of symptoms that'll eventually build up.
I would add also
Yeah.
here belief system,
Yeah.
how this belief system towards food affects our digestion. And here I'll give example from my study time when I was studying herbal medicine. We had a client during the clinical practice who was extremely sensitive to food. So he could eat maximum 10 items, and he was already over 30 years old. And the moment we start to discuss more about the emotional pattern in his life, it ended up that he believed that he has food allergies because his parents once saw him reacting to some food. Of course, they loved him, they were scared for him and his health. So they created a picture that he is sensitive to many foods. And he believed that for years and years, until the moment he was traveling somewhere, and in the food, in the airplane, there was something he couldn't eat based on the belief. I think there were some nuts, and he ate that and nothing happened. So he started to investigate more and trying all the foods he was forbidding himself over years and years. And he realized, oh my God, I don't have an issue. It was just my belief system about the food I created. And I like the fact what you said about the emotions of the cook and how it impacts other people. Because if you think that the low emotions like anger, frustration, they are low vibration, if we measure this in hertz, we eat food that has that kind of frequency. So immediately we absorb that to our body. And the next day we may feel sick, we may feel down, we may feel angry, and we don't know where it's coming from. We love to go to restaurants. Yeah, who doesn't like? There's a really small amount of people who would think of the meal they are eating there and how it can impact directly not just their health, but also even behavior, because the food is changing our microflora in the gut, and the microflora can change really quickly. So if we eat food with, let's say, low frequency, and also food that, let's say, it may not be the best quality, it can change our microbiome that in the long term also affect our mood and behavior, because the microbe helping us to produce different neurotransmitters like serotonin, for example.
On the positive side of things as well, because we're starting the negative aspect of it, but on the positive side, why, for example, do so many men or anybody really like to be cooked for? When a woman, for example, cooks for a man, right? That this is the cultural like norm for most countries, most places. Why did it become so popular? Because there's nurturing in the food, there's care, there's love, and there's appreciation that is delivered into the food, and it can be like it actually will change the taste of the food as well. When you're eating something that has love in it, a lot of people say, "Oh, it's made with love," just to be cheeky or just to be like poetic. But realistically speaking, it actually is made with love. And when something is made with love, it does taste better. And I would actually, go into scientific studies just out of curiosity to see if this is true, because I truly believe when you cook with love, you can taste the love. So, and like in your receptors in a very tangible way, not just in like a feel good feeling. So that's very real. But at the same time, also, I would say not to freak out if, for example, you're eating out or you're starting to be, let's just say, energetically mindful of what you're putting into your body, because obviously being around people that are, let's say, negative, that's a boundary that some people create and say, hey, if you're just in a heavier mood, how can I not take on your emotions, right? So, you take you handle your problem, I handle my problems. But at the same time, when food comes into the play, because when we come to this realization, like when people start learning about reading labels and reading nutritional understanding, so we're not going to get things with pesticides, we're not going to get things with processed, so you start reading the labels and understanding stuff. With energy, there's not much physical labels you can read, right? You can't, look at your meal and say, is my food have negative emotion or positive emotion? But what you can do is there's just simple practices that I have done throughout my life that are very simple. You can also do it as a belief system because if you truly believe something, it will affect you because, like, let's say the placebo effect. The placebo effect is very real. One quick method that I typically use to cleanse my food, especially if I'm eating out and I don't know who made the food, right? Sometimes all I do is I do an outward spiral over the food. So out, basically just with my hand like this, outward spiral, you're taking out what's there, and then you do a clockwork spiral where you're adding light. It's a very simple practice. You can take 30 seconds and it will make a energetic difference in your food. You can experiment with it, you can play with it. Everybody has their own experiences. Some people are more sensitive, some people are less sensitive. It doesn't matter. But if that's something that resonates with you, by all means. If not, just let it go.
This is a good tip. I like it, and I think I will do it. I saw you a few times doing that. I will copy that
So
definitely.
don't forget to pack your magic finger.
Yeah. Well, what about the dust over the food?
The
Is
dust
that
over the food,
another way of?
that's only for very specific influencers that like to throw salt over their hand. But
I gotcha. On the physical level, some
yeah,
people, when they eat out,
yeah,
when they travel and eat
yeah,
out, they take probiotics. They take some antimicrobials like
sure.
oregano oil, or they drink some bitter herbs. That makes sense. Do you see that the gut in long term it's more as a reactive organ or is an interpretive organ? And something that constantly makes meaning out of both internal and external experiences and environment.
In some degree, I feel it is both because number one, first, the gut is an energy center. It's also your creative center. And in the Hindu tradition of or the Vedic, should I say, tradition, it's the sacral chakra, right? Where that's where life force is, the creativity in men. It's obviously more or less just organs, like a gut there. For women, there's the womb and the ovaries and everything. So, that's a very sacred place, but it's also a place of which holds your identity, which holds um, who you believe yourself to be in this life, which is kind of important because this is your identity, right? Where you have different energy centers in your body that hold specific energy. Think of it like hard drives on a computer, right? It just holds information. The gut is your identity center. And this is where trillions of bacteria obviously live. So they, are operating in their own way, in their own balance, in their own homeostasis. But in the gut, safety is a big thing. That's where a lot of safety lies. And if you feel unsafe in your life at any point, that's where that signal will be held. And when we spoke about many episodes ago around women having I would say more gut issues than men for the most part, I think it's very correlative to safety issues
To
because
safety, and also I believe to the fact that for the hundreds of years, the woman and the feminine energy has been so suppressed.
exactly. So, and that suppression, when emotions are suppressed, when being seen, when being felt, when being understood is suppressed, that all starts storing in the gut. And the gut doesn't just store, fecal bacteria, not only physical, but energetic as well. Your gut will store it. And just like people can be holding on to kilograms of fecal matter, which is basically undigested, rotting, let's just say biological material that's been processed, but now is not allowing itself to evacuate. It's the same exact thing with emotions. And typically, both are correlated. If you are constipated physically, there's a good chance there's some kind of constipation happening in some part of your body, either the mental body, either the or energetic body or emotional body.
And what
The
you
way,
are
yeah,
telling
yeah,
now can be absolutely explained already by science, because there's such a thing like gut and brain axis. So the connection, direct connection between our brain and our gut, the whole feeling of butterfly in the stomach, or like really feeling twist in the belly when we are anxious, it's actually also physiological process, and it's explained through the way our nervous system works. Our gut is connected with our brain through the vagus nerve, through the autonomic nervous system. So when we not feel safe, we are in the sympathetic state of the nervous system. That means our digestion will slow down. And if we feel safe, we are in the parasympathetic mode. So our body can focus on the digestive activities. It releases the enzymes that impact our digestion and so on. So it's not something, new and like out of nowhere. It's actually also physiological process, how the emotions are directly impacting our digestion.
And if you go into Chinese medicine and all that, they've been speaking about for thousands upon thousands of years. I'm not very versed in that modality of aspects, but that's been, Chinese medicine has been talking about this for a very, very long time. When they were talking about the meridian system, how, your teeth have different connections to organs. And obviously, if your teeth are connected to the organs and you're eating something, there's, how your teeth operate. So your body is interconnected very energetically and very electrically, because most of the body is operating to electrical signals. And obviously, energy is electricity. Depending on what charge is coming into your system, is the same thing as having a fuse box on your wall. And if lightning strikes your house, there's a specific fuse that protects it. So, and your body has also fuses that will blow to make sure that you're safe at all times.
I'm not a specialist of traditional Chinese medicine, but there are few patterns of emotions or our behavior or beliefs that will impact different parts of the digestive system and also give us different kinds of symptoms. So for example, if the people have the absolute need of controlling everything, they are called like control freaks. Well, it comes from feeling unsafe. So what's happening then? The abdomen will tight. When we have tight abdomen, we cannot process. So the whole digestion will slow down because we also don't process the emotions related to the control itself. And quite often, there is a constipation tendencies. If somebody feels constantly fear, again, gut will contract, but it may create some kind of IBS like symptoms. The anger is stored and processed in the liver, like also frustration, irritation, gives like heat to the liver. And when there is heat in the liver, it causes the whole body inflammation, sensitivities, reactivities to the food, but also to environment. There are also people who are very oversensitive, and they are usually empathetic type of people. Those who I also see quite often in my practice, those are usually people who are easily affected by the food and by the people, by the emotions. And they quite often experience many kinds of digestive problems, including chronic diarrhea. Like I feel like they need to get rid of something constantly, because diarrhea is, in biological way, our protective mechanism to get rid of, for example, bacteria when we get food poisoning. But if we think about the emotions, the diarrhea is something that we may have a problem to process, but we don't want to even process. We want to get rid of it as soon as possible. And while constipation is something we emotionally hold into it, emotionally or mentally, and it doesn't release.
And it's very similar to, let's say, absorption issues, right? Where if you're having some kind of an issue absorbing a specific vitamin, mineral, nutrient, there's a good chance that there's something, there could be an emotional component to that. And by allowing yourself to digest, let's just say, a life experience that might have become stagnant, opens your receptors into understanding that it can, open into from the energetic realm into the physical realm. And this is kind of where I want to give a little bit of blueprint of, in my work, how I was able to see certain, let's just say, diseases in a very specific way. There is two blueprints of the body. There is obviously the DNA, which is the physical layer, and then there's also an energetic blueprint that is basically on the same layer of your body, but it is basically the pure form or the form that it wants to be, and then there whatever distortions might be in there, be it stored, be it ancestral, be it whatever, those are directly impacting the physical. So think of it like you have the DNA, that's the information for the cells, and then you have the energetic, let's just say, blueprint, or even say the DNA code, that's non-physical, and they're overlapped with each other. And in how you call it in quantum physics, they've already shown that these atoms are constantly shifting in and out of these states, right? So it's basically, think of it like a communication signal, like on like an internet, a Wi-Fi signal, where every second your cells are vibrating from the energetic to the physical, right? And they're coming in and out of reality essentially. So if you think of it that way, whatever data is in the energetic is transferring immediately into the physical. So any energetic shifts that you make within your body automatically starts reflecting onto the physical, right? And I think this is for people that are ready to hear this, this can be life changing. Just because when you understand that this energetic layer is more than 50% as for some people, but for most it's 50% of the condition, then it gives you much more leeway now because you've opened up much more than the physical realm can help you in the moment. And there's a good chance you will find much faster relief of any symptom, any condition with understanding either through a practitioner or through your own awareness of this energetic layer of the body of whatever you may be suffering with. There's a good chance, I would say 99% chance there is an energetic component to it that once released, it starts superpositioning itself into the physical. And this is not just, I've seen very physical skeletal issues like bone issues. I've seen um, like bones heal, like a full fracture healing in 4 weeks, um, with scanning and everything, proving that so everything, it's not just, oh, the gut shifting or cells shifting. It's every cell in your body, including bone, that will respond to this very, very quickly. Whenever, it can be as something as far out as a past life resolution, or an inner child problem, or just letting go of emotions from your mom and dad. All of those stuff will make drastic impacts on your health if you start inviting that awareness into your life.
Yeah. And knowing that the physical problems in the body are not just caused by the physical triggers, it's, I would say, a bit of relief. I can say from my example, for many years, I was focusing only on the physical aspects of my health and trying to recover from long illness. That was very frustrating or even stressful when again symptoms were coming back. The moment I start to be more open into energetic spirituality and look at different patterns also in that areas that would affect my symptoms and affect my well-being, I felt more safe, because I felt that this is not just that really something bad is happening to me. There is an information that I just have to learn to decode and learn to read it, to be able to understand as well, so my body can heal to the end. We also observe that now more and more people have the gut issue. And yeah, again, we can physically explain that by having more poisons in the food. Yeah, food is more processed, there's more pesticides. But do you think that there's more gut-related issues today would be about just pathology, or would they be more about the loss of connection to our internal signals and actually to connection with us and the nature around us?
Absolutely. So I believe, like, for example, right now there's a big movement in like parasite awareness and pathogens and basically understanding, oh wow, you have tapeworms, you have liver flukes, you have all these fancy things that are happening in your body, and everyone's going through the flushing process, the clearing process. But one thing which is could be very controversial and unpopular in this train of thought is, what if these parasites aren't necessarily just feeding off of you, but actually helping process certain things? Because when parasites are feeding off of things, it's not just physical stuff. They're also feeding off, trying to break down emotions. They're trying, like your gut biome is also there to break down energy and understandings, because if there's a physical component to something, there's always an energetic component, right? It's like the mirror. When you're looking down at the water, you're seeing water, but you're also seeing reflection of the sky, right? So the sky isn't in the water, but it's reflecting the water, if that makes sense. So in the same time as there in Hermetic teachings, it goes as above, so below, as you see within yourself, as it is outside of yourself. So that creates a balance where all of these awarenesses, yes, sometimes it is good to remove certain things, but more or less, if you listen to your body's intelligence instead of forcing a flush, instead of forcing, a detox, your body knows what to do. Your body knows, it's incredibly intelligent, and I'll keep telling this until I have no breath left in me. The body knows what it's doing. And the more you just allow it to function with being properly resourced, with being properly rested, with being properly listened to, it saves you from stressing about diets, stressing about cleanses, stressing about all these things, because your body will tell you what it needs, when it needs it, and how it needs it, far better than any doctor, any practitioner, anybody can ever tell you, because your body is obviously very intelligent in what it needs. All we need to do is listen. So all of the fancy things, or the diets, or the regimens, or the fears that we go through of, oh my goodness, should I avoid this? Should I avoid that? Should I have this cleanse? Should I take this supplement? Should I take that supplement? All you need is, do you have your vitamins? Do you have your minerals? Are you absorbing them? That's also, and then if you're not, what's blocking that absorption, right? And that could, there 9 times out of 10, there is most likely an emotional component to it, where something in your life. So let's just kind of break down a little bit the process of, because we in our first part, we explained the whole process of how we broke down food from touching it to chewing it to digesting your stomach and then even evacuating it. And energy is very similar to food, where you have an experience, right? That experience, let's just say, like a positive experience. Let's say you go on a date, right? And you have a great time, you have great feeling, good connection, all of this stuff, right? So you're feeling, the excitement of that. So now your mind, when you have an experience, says, is this important to me, or is this like, how do I rate this, right? Because energy does not become an emotion until it has story attached to it, right? So, for example, many experiences we experience in this world is just data that we received, but then we put a story onto it, and now there's an emotion, right? Let's just hypothetically say, in this date scenario, you went out with a girl, and this, or a boy, you thought it went great and everything is good, but then there's obviously the information that you exchanged was very basic. Let's just say you spoke on, if you just look at it face value, you just exchange information. But with stories attached, emotions attached, is what do they think about me? How do they feel about me? Was I liked? Was I not liked? Oh, maybe I wasn't enough. Oh, maybe I was a little ugly. Oh, maybe I was this. None of that was discussed. You just shared information. Most of our life is like this. We share information with somebody, but then because of what happened before or what happened after or what we believe happened in that moment, we create a story and typically add some kind of, information behind it. The same thing happens when we eat food, right? All we're doing is we're seeing, okay, there's resources. I need to eat those resources. But now you're thinking, oh, what's in those resources? Will that resource make me fat? Will it make me sick? Will it make me nauseous? Will it make me this? Will it make me that? And usually it does because, for example, if I use the cake example, if you're looking at cake and you're like, oh, I really want that cake, but I know it'll make me fat. I know it'll make me this. I know I'll feel sick, and I'll know. Instead of being like, well, my understanding, if you're gonna eat cake, wow, this is a great experience. Let me have a little bit of it and let me fully enjoy every moment of that and let me taste it, let me feel it in my mouth, not just shovel it down and pretend I never did it. So, we can ignore the calories and run away from the whole. No, no. When you eat something with an intention of this is going to nourish me, there's a good chance it'll nourish you far more than just what resource you gave it. So what I'm saying is you can be energetically nourished, not just physically. And many times it's actually your nervous system will ask for either sweeter things or more comforting things because it recognizes that as some form of safety in the body. So sometimes, some people, everyone has their own comfort food, right? And comfort food basically says, when I eat this, I feel calm and I feel safe. It doesn't really matter what the profile of the food is. It could be a cookie, it could be a banana, it could be, a smoothie, whatever it is. It could be healthy, it could be unhealthy in the macronutrient department. But the what we're focused on here is what intention is being placed on here.
So what when people have an experience and now they need to process that? So how this is happening and also what they can do so that process will go smoothly and they wouldn't get any digestive problems.
So just like food, you took the first bite, right? You had the experience, and it doesn't matter if it tasted good, if it didn't taste good, you swallowed it, right? And now it's going down into your stomach. And now your stomach is also not just a sac that has acid in it, but it's also where the solar plexus would be, which is your power center, right? And the solar plexus would be your sense of action, a sense of power, a sense of I wouldn't say identity, but it's also kind of the sense of your ego to some degree, where it's very connected to your mind in the sense that this is where the heart mind connection really comes in. A lot of times when people have stomach issues, there's also the processing of whatever, let's just say you have an experience. When you have a trauma, let's say in early childhood, let's say you had some difficulty or some arguments or some misunderstandings with your parents, there you had an experience. Now you swallow that experience, but you don't know what to do with that experience, right? It's like eating something that now your body's like, "Ooh, I don't know how to break this down," right? So it's the same thing, like let's say if you're lactose intolerant, right? And you're eating something that you don't have the enzymes to break down, right? So if you eat cheese and you're lactose intolerant, there's a good chance you're gonna have undigested food. So it's the same thing with emotion. And with emotions, it's a little bit trickier because essentially the designed process that we're meant to go through before we go through the pitfalls of the other process is you have an experience, you process it, you feel it, you let it expand through your body and embody. So when the process expands through your body, what it means is you allow it to be felt and you allow it to exist without needing to control it or do anything about it, and you just surrender into it, that information travels through all your cells and updates specific patterns. Then it goes all the way down into your gut, and then you extract. That's where, the similar to your food, you're extracting the vitamins, the minerals, and it's going to where it needs to go. It's the same thing you would be experiencing with an experience, any kind of emotion, right? And then once it's fully processed in your stomach, the only thing that is let go, just like you would let go waste. Here, you would let go of any limiting beliefs that might have happened around that. You would let go of doubts, the fears, because this you getting new information. Let's just say it was a positive experience. And this positive experience is, oh, this is telling me something different about my reality than I'm used to believe. Like this guy, he ate something, right? He's like, oh, I was I ate this. I was not supposed to eat this, but now I can eat this. So he just not only had a physical acceptance, but an emotional and energetic acceptance that nothing happened and I am safe. And then from there, you can now essentially poop out negative experiences, the old program, the old identity, the old patterns that not are not serving you anymore, just like having waste that's already been processed. It doesn't serve you to keep onto that waste because you got everything you needed from it. You experienced an experience, and then it came out. What's not needed, the shell of it essentially, is evacuated. So
Mhm.
that's the healthy way of doing things. Now,
What about the
yeah,
positive emotions? For example, in traditional Chinese medicine, like in other natural medicines, we talk about really balance. You cannot be all the time in fear and doubts, but
sure.
you also shouldn't be all the time in overjoy because it can affect like heart. So is there also a pattern related to our digestive system that too much of the positive energy, like overflow of the emotions, like positive emotions could also affect our
Well,
digestion?
absolutely. Because if you're always in love and light and joy and bliss, there's a good chance, unless you've already ascended into some form of mastery, there's a good chance that you are not allowing yourself to properly feel certain things that are there that should be felt. Because if you're always in joy, you could also dissociate a little bit into not feeling what wants to be felt. And emotions can only be felt if they're acknowledged. And by acknowledging them, that typically means you entered that state briefly, right? So if you need to feel grief or frustration or anger, there is times where joy can transmute heavier emotions and fun can transmute. So the healing journey does not always need to be sad. Let's just say it that way. It can be joyful and you can transmute certain things through fun, through play, through experience. That's absolutely true. But at the same time, there's moments and times where certain things just need to be processed. And having moments, just like the feminine reproductive cycle, there is layers to the whole process. Men process emotions a lot of times through action. A man will withdraw more, just need space instead of needing expression as much. For a man, an expression can be, I'm going to the gym. I need to physically move something, my body, because when you physically move, the energy can move and can start processing. For women, they need to talk and they need to express and they need to feel seen and feel heard. And 9 times out of 10, when a woman talks something out, she feels better. Men don't necessarily always want to talk. There's obviously every man is operated differently. With me, I like to talk a little bit more, but at the same time, I'm also a Cancer, so I am extra understanding in more of the feminine way of understanding things. But for most men, it's gym, some kind of physical activity is extremely beneficial for them. It's the same thing where when there is any kind of intense situation, let's just say a breakup, right? How do men and women handle this? Women cry it out for a while. They get very emotional, very frustrated, and they really have to physically feel and go through the sorrow of it. Men, okay, let me focus on something, right? Let me go to the gym. Let me improve myself. Let me focus on my business. Let me do something. It's not necessarily saying that they're completely disconnected from the emotions, but that is how men process because we have different nervous systems and different, different hormones, different brain wirings. This is why I strongly believe men and women are just not the same. And this doesn't mean there's inequality. It's just we need to be aware of the strengths and weaknesses of men and not put everyone in the same category. Like just how men are innately more physically stronger than women. Also, women typically are more intelligent than men. There's a higher chance that women are a little bit more emotionally sensitive and are more aware of certain things than men. But at the same time, there's always a balance coming into each other. So how we process, how we do things needs to be respected in the workplace and the things. And then from there, the equality talk becomes far more relaxed. That is how our sense of power is understood, is through how we start processing and digesting experiences. If you're having an issue, you need to start some form of therapy, some form of introspection, something where you start thinking, what's happening in my life? And why am I not digesting something properly? Because it's not just your physical, like what you're eating. Because I'll keep on saying this as well. Whatever, if you're having, like, for example, if women having weight issues, I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, honestly, this is an extreme example, but it's not food. It's not what you're eating. It's more or less an emotional issue than it is a food issue. And calories in, calories out is a very limited box that dieting only adds emotional stress. Yes, it will work, but eventually you have the bounce back and all the stuff and the water weight and the this and the that. So it becomes a mess if you just treat, let's just say, because I don't know if I've heard one woman that doesn't complain about wanting 1 or 2 kilos here or there. And this is a smaller number. Some women want more. Everyone obviously the different size and different shape, but there is like just similar to maybe men are more focused on putting more or less muscle on. Women are very focused on,
It depends
how,
of the
exactly,
the culture we come from.
exactly. Oh, yeah.
But in
If
the,
you,
let's say,
yeah,
modern Western
yeah,
culture, this
yeah,
is the pressure which is created on woman and also
yeah.
a man. So men for more muscular mass, woman for more slim body. A woman who do million things to lose their weight, still they cannot lose. They change the
Yeah.
diet, they exercise, they look at the hormonal, they experience some insecurity in life, so they don't feel safe. So I feel like their body needs to collect a bit of fat to feel safe, or they want to hide from something. They don't want to show themselves who they really are for many reasons. Again, there's extra layer of the fat to cover them or to protect them. I see this in my private life with some friends. I see also with my clients. But okay, we stop at the stomach. So what's happening further when you try to process emotions in the stomach? They are still maybe not processed the way they should. They are moving down. So what's happening then?
So first, I just wanted to add 2 more things about the weight aspect, because I feel like this is still in the midsection. We're kind of going down, but essentially there's 2 things with weight that I want to mention before we go down to the gut. And what if, for example, if someone's very skinny most of their life, there's a good chance that they're completely ignoring their emotions, right? Their emotions are like locked behind some kind of door, and you're not going to look at them, right? And that's typically what really skinny means. When you start gaining weight and you're on the opposite spectrum, where you start becoming more on the obese spectrum, then you are lost essentially in the feeling, right? Where the feelings are there, the guilt, the shame, the frustration, but you don't know how to do it, and you're just basically circling in it, right? And what happens with fat on a biological level, fat is a great way to protect your body when it has toxins that it needs to push away from it. So basically to get these toxins away from the organs so that you're safe. And typically that means putting it in adipose tissue, which is fat cells, and fat cells hold number one, water as well, but they also hold emotions, not just physical particulates or toxins that your body is trying to protect its organs with.
I would say good
When,
way is also to
yeah,
look at the skin,
yeah,
because especially
as
on
the
the
biggest
face,
organ. Yeah,
because different face parts are
yeah,
related to different organs.
yeah,
So if you're going through some big emotional
sure.
waves in your life and something is happening on the skin, on your
Yeah,
face, it will show which organ has a problem and which
yeah,
should be more addressed, not only at the physical level, but also emotional. There's so much data nowadays. It's so easy
absolutely.
to get to the root cause.
And when we get into the gut, I feel like skin and the gut is almost like a mirror of each other, right?
Mhm.
Because the stomach is more or less just the softening process of the digestion. It's like, okay, we've started the process of digesting. Obviously, the digestion starts here, but this is a more mechanical breakdown on a chemical level. And then it starts the chemicals, let's just say sludge, or let's just say you've digested now, or you've tried to digest something, but a lot of times it could also be stuck in the stomach. And if it's stuck in the stomach, it could potentially correlate ulcers and different diseases in the stomach to potential energy that has not fully been brought down into the stomach. Because it's not like food. For example, food will not stay in the stomach, right? Food will always go down into the gut. Because if it stays in the stomach, you'll become very sick very quickly and you'll have emergency situation. But emotions can stay in different organs, different parts of the body for decades. And eventually, when emotions aren't expressed, emotions will turn into physical symptoms because the physical symptom is typically the end stage of you have not dealt with this emotion in a long time and you need to deal with it because the body cannot deal with it anymore. So it's going to show you, hey, there is an issue.
It's already
So
screaming for the
exactly. So
attention.
that's what I'm saying. So typically when there is a physical symptom, that's basically the end stage of your the let's just say the trauma, let's just say the emotion, or you can even say the experience. So we're not even going to say trauma. Whatever experience that came in here, it could sit in your body for decades. And eventually energy is energy in motion, right? So if energy is in motion, but it hasn't been moving in a while, the motion has to express itself in some way because the body is will always try to process this for you, but without your conscious awareness, it'll be blocked. It's kind of like gears that are moving without proper lubrication. Eventually, the gears will start stopping, and not because nothing's wrong with the mechanism, is because the mechanism wasn't taken care of, and now it's getting rusty.
When we realize that we have emotions and we try to process them, maybe we focus, many people, I was there too, try to feel the emotions, but I was really focusing on fixing them. And that created another level of pressure. Need of fixing that was
Yeah.
creating even more digestive symptoms or more other symptoms.
Yeah.
So how to do it safely and without creating a problem, even much deeper problem to yourself? Because many people, even the people who are in the awakening or spiritual journey, they at some point feel the inner pressure that they have to already fix and be ready with anything. How you overcome this inner tension towards fixing your digestive system when you know
So
you have to release this emotion to finally digest food properly and feel light, not bloated.
there's a time and a place where addressing it and bringing awareness to it and quote unquote fixing it, right,
Mhm.
is has a place and has a position. But at a certain point, we go back to the body knows what it's doing. And if you start feeling like, for example, it's very, when you start feeling emotions and you start processing things and you start allowing the body to do what it needs to do, a lot of times your body goes into metabolic recalibration, meaning that you will start feeling very tired, very lethargic, very symptomatic, not because something is wrong, but because the body is reallocating energy into processing now those emotions into repair, and that's very metabolically taxing. So when your body is repairing it cannot focus on giving you energy. Feel having you, run a marathon, having you all the you'll feel almost sometimes worse for sometimes months at a time because that's your body starting to process years of not just physical damage, but emotional stagnation that now has to clear through physical routes and through energetic routes. Because, like I said, you have two blueprints that'll be constantly communicating with each other. So when there's a strong signal in one blueprint, let's just say you cleared an energetic line, now the body's like, oh, great, we're intelligent. We can now redistribute energy in different parts and we can start healing an area that was ignored for a long time that you might not even know what the inflammatory system is looking like or your gut or your guy lining or whatever, but the body knows everything. It knows everything to the micro atom. And the more we relax into the process, the less symptoms you have. The more you want to control the system, or just the same thing when we believe that we know better than God, right? We believe that, oh, my way is way better than God's way. There's no way that God has a better way for me. So I'm just gonna go and focus and figure out my way. And then that way is like walking through molasses, right? You're like, no, but it's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be this. It's supposed to be challenging. I have to really work for it, right? Instead, God's like, now why are you doing this? It's the same thing as God is the body at the same time as well. God is everything. But the body is as intelligent as source, as we are made in the image, right? When you go through an emotion, you also have to go through the integration process of allowing your body to adjust because your consciousness can shift instantly, but the body is physicality and it has a biological process. It has a clock, it has circadian rhythms, it has everything. And that takes time for it to adjust, for it to start evacuating specific symptoms. Also, it could, heavy metals can be coming out with it, pathogens. Because eventually, if you truly just allow yourself to be properly nourished, have all your vitamins, have all your minerals, listening to your body, the body will start operating on its own without much intervention from you. Just make sure it's oiled, make sure it's fine, and it'll start doing it. Yeah, you're not going to feel like rainbows and sunshine all the time, but at the same time, you will feel incrementally better over weeks, over months, and it might not be very evident in the moment, but looking back, let's just say a month from now, wow, I do feel different. I do feel better. And it could just be I feel lighter. I feel like I'm not as attached to a very specific trigger that attached me before. But everything is about layer after layer after layer and the body takes time to really process that out. And that's kind of what the gut is all about. It's about, really processing all of that stored data that you use. It's the same thing as having kilograms, in your intestine. You have what's a quantum measurement? You have just quantum gigabytes of data in your system, in your stomach, that will process out in the energetic layer, and that will flush out. Sometimes the energetic can actually attach into the stools, right? And then when you go and have a bowel movement, you are actually taking out energy as well in a very physical, biological way. So.
I'm actually very grateful that you mentioned this all, that having symptoms is also a sign of recalibration, especially for people who experience chronic illness and they do a lot of work. They do physical work, they work on the emotions, even maybe they touch some spiritual aspects of the health and they have relapses. That's very stressful. And I'm talking for maybe all people who I know and experience that by also talking about this from my own perspective. Having relapses, having the symptoms over when you are doing a lot of your work to get better are very stressful. But we have to remember that this is also the way our body heals. We are releasing things. So releasing something that was in us for years or was causing some tension, of course, it creates symptom. It can cause a pain, it can cause fatigue, it's energy consuming. This is something also what method called recall healing tells. In that method, they claim that having symptoms during the recovery is already a sign of healing. It's connected to some emotional trigger, emotional experience that really affect us. And that's so-called active state. But when we are able to process that already and heal from that, that's the moment when the body releases that, causing a lot of symptoms. For example, the throat, or the gut. Like if somebody had a problem to speak because it experienced some kind of abuse, couldn't say its truth, and then it heals from that, it may experience sore throat, it may experience throat pain, or even tonsillitis.
Or flu symptoms or anything
Absolutely,
like that.
because it's the sign already, I'm healing that. So we should look at the symptoms, not only that it's something wrong with us. Yeah, we should definitely find the root cause of that symptoms. But when you already found the root cause and you are doing all the jobs you are supposed to do, symptoms don't necessarily mean something is wrong with you. They are also very positive sign of a healing. That's, for example, all the detox what you mentioned, the parasite cleansing, they are very good. I mean, if you know how to do it, but they create also a lot of stress on the body. And if not done properly, they can cause harm to us. Because I believe we all have parasites. Seriously, we all have, because parasites are not there just because we didn't wash the hands or vegetables. They are there to process also our emotions. I believe that this is a part of our natural flora. The problem starts when we have too many of them. Maybe because exactly we had too many emotions to deal with and we didn't deal with them. Too many of those pathogens will also create problems because they are live animals. They are also producing toxins that defecate in our body. So they can cause inflammation, irritation to different organs, or potentially even cancer. The balance is the key. So we need some forms of lives in us to keep our flora also healthy. But if we are nourished, if we are resting enough, our immune system will do the job.
The body is such an intelligent system. The immune system, the parasympathetic, the sympathetic, all of the symptoms that work in just perfect harmony with every little thing, even when they're beat up to no degree, they still function, they still operate. Look how humanity is basically poisoned beyond belief in so many levels. And we still, yes, it's not pretty sometimes, but we're still functioning, and there's still, so just it's a testament on how strong the human body actually is and how resilient it is, but at the same time giving it the least amount of stressors, and but also safety. Safety is, it's impossible to fully really process anything because the body's also smart and it'll also only let go of things when you feel safe. So you can be doing the work, and you can be doing the work, and you could be doing the work for year after year after year. But if you don't actually feel safe in your body, you're just spinning. Like, you might be doing a little bit off the top, a little bit off the top, but safety, like if you don't feel safe in where you're at in life right now, it's very difficult. Be it survival stress, be it relationship stress, be it whatever stress you're under, it's very difficult to heal because your body just won't let go of certain patterns, won't let go of certain emotional stores until it feels safe, because your body's also intelligent in saying, if I let this go, then I am going to be exposed to danger. And your body is very aware, your mind and your body is very aware of keeping you out of danger, right? And whatever belief it believes, it's going to hold on to that until it feels it can repattern out of it.
And we
Number
spoke
one,
about this in already previous episode. I think it's episode number 4. So everybody who wants to learn more about the safety and how it impacts then different aspects of our life, like please just go and listen to episode 4.
Yeah, and I'll just quickly mention, if you're serious about healing and you're serious about letting go of specific patterns, finding safety is the greatest tool that you have. And that can be in relationship. Like if you don't feel safe in a relationship and nothing can be done to do it, to make you feel safe in that situation, removing yourself might be the healthiest option because then the healing can begin. It's very difficult to heal in any situation where you just don't feel safe. And I've gone through years and years and years of a very introspective journey where I learned the minute aspects and maybe went to levels that many may or may have not gone through. I'm a big believer that food, regardless of health or not, can create healing and because it creates safety. You're under the opinion that sweets are not necessarily beneficial, but I spent about a few months where I ate like pasta and cookies, where I'm going to be straight up, and I felt that was what my body wanted at the time, not necessarily because I biologically needed it. It just gave my body the least amount of digestion needs and the most amount the easiest way to process certain things. So when the body is going through something, it wants simplicity. It wants one food. It doesn't want to mix food. So if you're gonna have a carbohydrate, you can have a sweet potato if it's healthy, or something sweeter, whatever your body wants in that moment. But simplicity is the thing your body wants the most because digestion also takes energy. And your body knows what it knows it first of all needs energy to keep functioning, but also it's using most of it to heal and to function and to start redirecting glucose to different places. A lot of times, safety is reducing metabolic demand. That means eating very basic stuff, eating one thing at a time. Your nervous system just needs to feel, okay, I have resources and I can process that into whatever it needs to. Obviously, this was my experience. It doesn't have to be any bad experience. I'm not telling anybody to eat cookies because they're healthy for you, but
I'm glad
helping you
you
understand.
mentioned that.
Yeah.
Because as you said,
But
I will not
yeah,
agree to everything.
yeah. But at
And
the same
I want
time,
to also
yeah,
say,
yeah,
when we talk
yeah,
about this, because you also mentioned our body
yeah,
needs to be nourished. Cookie will
yeah,
not nourish your physical body, will maybe nourish you at the emotional level. Because, yeah, simple glucose, it gives also this kind of calming feeling. Yeah, it's
yeah,
related to
exactly.
our
But
hormones,
it also the
neurotransmitters, and
number
so
one
on.
thing is adrenaline. And this
Mm-hmm.
this is the one thing that we have this, and this is what I want to mention about glucose and just sweets. Because the number one turn on, like for example, your body works on stress hormones. If you want to feel safe, typically that means on a biological level, you're running low cortisol and you're running low adrenaline, right? That's what safety means biologically. Because when you're not running adrenaline, your body feels it's safe. When you're breathing deeper, it feels safe. And also, when you're not in fight or flight, you're able to heal, you're able to do a whole bunch of things. And the fastest way for your body to turn off adrenaline or stress responses is through glucose. So everyone has their own thing of what glucose they will take. Some it could be a banana, it could be healthy, it could be not healthy. But the question is obviously you don't want to have too fatty thing. Like if it's like a pasta is nice because there's not a lot of fat. So if you ideally to avoid too much fat plus sugar, that's a whole different story. But
Yeah,
if it's just like
good you mentioned.
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
combination of these
it's a
two.
combination. So carbs have been demonized. Leave
Fats as well.
yeah, fats as well. Your body is literally designed to run on glucose. Obviously, if you do it like way too much, then obviously there's going to be an issue. But that's you can drink too much water, you can drink too much anything. So there's no you
Or the
can't
balance, or
yeah,
it's balance.
exactly. You cannot compare excess to anything. Glucose, number one, is this. That's why a lot of people reach instinctively for sweets when they're stressed, because your body knows it's not just, the parasites or whatever in your system that are wanting to munch on it. Yes, they will munch on it, but more or less there's an emotion that's happening. And when you eat this, you relax and you have actually a better chance to process that emotion or whatever you're feeling when adrenaline stops. And adrenaline typically stops with some kind of sugar. I believe glucose is one of your greatest allies in the healing journey, because if you have a steady bloodstream, that is the safest feeling for your body that you would have, because that's basically saying I am constantly nourished. Fasting stresses your body, right? Because you have to start running on stress hormones to redistribute like the remaining glucose you have in your body. Yes, there's a healing state that happens there as well. There's a lot of things that can happen, but in emotional processes and emotional safety, keeping your body feeling safe. This is why I want to stress the glucose thing a little bit, because glucose, from my experience, and also everyone has different, sensitivities. Obviously, if you have insulin resistance, glucose might also not be a good idea for you. But if you're really backed up and all this stuff, there's whole different stories where you just need to go completely off of a processed food and just you can do carnivore, you can do whatever you want temporarily. I'm just giving you pieces of information to help understand what safety means to the body. When you feel safe, things move so much smoother and so much faster because the body just moves on its own and you don't need to control any of the process. You don't need to know any fancy terms. You don't need to know any Kundalini yoga. You don't need to know anything about anything. You just need to give your body the resources. You need to give your body the space it needs and the safety it needs to start doing the job it's good at doing.
And you have to learn to listen what
Yeah.
it's telling to you.
Yeah. And obviously, letting go of the control, letting go of needing to fix, letting go of needing to know what's happening. Yes, because the mind, there's three brains. There's the mind, there's the heart, and there's the gut. They each work in very different ways. The mind is all about making sense of reality, right? The past, the future, the now, and how it all regulates and how it all coincides and how I'm experiencing it physically. The heart is all about relations. It's an electromagnetic field that's sending out signals of, do I like this vibe? Do I not like this vibe? A relational energy. You're communicating 90% of your communication with another human being is through your heart. It's not through words. The mind just makes the communication linear and understandable because it creates words and meaning. But because otherwise, we could have a very silent podcast and we would be transmitting the same exact information. But right now, obviously, nobody understands telepathy very well. So it would be kind of boring. But at the same time, the frequency in the transmission would be identical without words because the heart is transmitting most of the information right now you're feeling. If you're feeling resonance, if you're feeling anything, it's because of the heart. So it's the quantum processor essentially. The gut is also your intuition. It's also your how you see reality, because this is why the gut and the mind is so important, because the gut is basically the storage of, do I feel safe? Do I not feel safe? How am I really, is my body relating to the world? And that's transmitting information to your brain. And the brain is now creating a story or an image or a reality that says, hey, this is how I'm relating and I'm creating words to it, or I'm getting a story or whatever happens through it. But the gut is basically the storage center of, is this right for me? Is this not right for me? Do I feel excited about it? Do I not feel excited about it? Should I go? Should I stay? Should I open? Should I close?
90% of the processes in the gut and the signals the gut creates ends up in the brain. Only 10% that are in the brain will end up to the gut. So which brain is more important?
Exactly.
Kind of which we have here in our head, or do we have in our abdomen?
This is the master. But realistically speaking, the gut and the heart are more impactful than this. The brain doesn't know how to do the things that we're asking it to do. The heart knows how to do these things. And this is why everyone says, listen to your heart, listen to your gut, trust your gut feeling. And how many people say, trust your mind? Really? Like, I think about it. Most people are saying, don't trust your thoughts because those thoughts, they're not even yours half the time. So whatever is happening up here, it's like you're basically, you're telling a surgeon to go fix, a well. It's just like, yeah, the surgeon's really good at doing one thing, and that's surgery, but it's not an engineer, it's not a mechanic, it's not a plumber, but we're asking you to do all of these things. Being respectful and understanding of roles that specific operating systems play makes life a lot easier because then you're not giving roles it doesn't need to have.
So we discussed the stomach, we discussed the gut itself and how they process different emotions. So how these emotions can be excreted.
I've already touched base on a few aspects. Obviously, when you're like just say you pee, or if you go and you go number two, even sweating, for example, is great for detoxing, right? Because your skin is the biggest organ. Depending on your what the skin looks like, if you however, it's also a good representation of what's internally happening, right? So if you're having, any kind of overgrowth, so if you're having psoriasis, typically it's going to show up as either acne, as some kind of boils, as some kind of stuff that basically it's also the body pushing out emotions. So in my life, I suffered quite a bit with a lot of acne, but that's also like blackheads, for example. They could be like explained like little bursts of anger that are leaving the system. Any kind of emotion, your body's going to also try to push it out to the skin. So if you have any kind of flare-ups on the skin, those are all exit pathways for energy to leave. Obviously, breath is another great pathway. So if you do breath work, deep breath in, longer breath out, that's an energetic pathway out. So the body has many different pathways down into the feet, stepping onto the earth. That's also a great charge. You can let go, touching a tree, fantastic. If you need to let go of something very quickly, touching a tree is kind of like a lightning rod for any kind of energetic heaviness. But yeah, so the body has many different ways. Go number two, there's only one pathway for that. But for toxins, in the physical department and the energetic department, there's many different pathways that they can leave your body. But at the same time, also, when you're clearing something, you're also clearing an identity, a belief system, some kind of trauma, some kind of emotional charge. And that is also the same thing as waste, right? It's the same thing as letting go of everything we just talked about.
So during the healing process, if you experience sudden diarrhea, sudden constipation, it's just also a sign of cleansing.
Yeah. It depends. You have to be very aware and obviously be responsible if it is severe to where you have diarrhea, you have some kind of fever, some kind of thing. Obviously, seek help. Like if it's in a situation where it's very uncomfortable, it's lasting longer than it should, all of this stuff, that's just basic understanding. This is not just, a spiritual situation. This is a physical stuff where your body might be backed up in a way that it's not able to process certain things. So there's time and a place where it's not it is energy leaving, but it's stressing the physical body a little bit too much.
So look at the red
And
flags,
yeah,
exactly,
exactly.
like fever,
Yeah, be
prolonged
aware. If
symptoms, and
there's
blood.
excessive pain, it's not going away after a few days. If you have a fever, if you have like more or less serious conditions happening, don't just write it away as, oh, this is spiritual. It's typically spiritual, energetic stuff is uncomfortable but manageable, and it's not threatening in any compartment. That's the only time it's spiritual because the body and spirit never puts you in a position where you're in danger, right? So if you're clearing something, you're always going to be as you allow it, nobody else. So if there is resistance, there's typically means if it's not severe, but you're extra uncomfortable, it's typically because you're still holding on to the process a little bit or trying to control the process. Because the more you control the process, the more challenging it becomes, sometimes physically. Allow the process to flow. And the more you surrender to it and the more you relax to it, the easier the process becomes and the faster it goes through your system.
How you can now advise people who would love to heal their digestive symptoms and they know they still have a lot of emotional triggers in them and they have problem to release it. So what simple methods you could use at the beginning?
I remember in the very, very, very beginning of my journey, I spent like 6 months to a year just taking out things that are stressing me out. So like I would not listen to music that was heavy. I would only listen to music that was enjoyable. I would only be doing things that are more enjoyable for me. I would not be forcing myself to do anything. I would be taking out fluorides. I would be taking out perfumes. I would just take out the small stressors. In the very beginning, you don't know anything about anything. So you
Mm.
just do what's in front of you and what you're aware of. So
Mm.
the more stressors you can take out of your body, out of your life, creating a space for your body to start recovering, even with small actions like not smelling a candle or reducing how much you're smoking or anything that is causing extra stress on your body gives your body space now to start healing on its own. Where forget about any fancy, retreats or programs or mentorships or all that stuff that'll come later on if you really are serious about going through certain things. But the smallest things matter the most. Just focus on taking out as much stress in your life as you have control to take out. And that could be physical, that could be also doing your best to eat more holistic, cleaner foods, also being more positive about your foods, being a little bit more positive about your body, being more positive about your life, because your emotional state at all times is also what your body is listening to. If you're constantly complaining and being miserable, your body listens to that and it doesn't know if you're joking. Like you could be joking about it as well, and your body still thinks that's real. So jokes or no joke, being negative about yourself or your life will impact your health immediately. It's the same way if being positive and joyful and grateful about your life will impact your life immediately. This is why I don't believe that it's calories in, calories out. I believe it's a full spectrum thing, but a lot of it has to do with the non-tangible. And the non-tangible has very quantumly and physical tangibility to it, as it directly impacts your physical life, your physical body, and your emotions and how you feel.
And I would add also something related to the food itself. It affects us directly. Sit with the food, be in peace for even half a minute before starting eating. Feel grateful for that food. Put away the phone or in any distraction. Look at the colors, smell it, enjoy, be present. Well, thank you, Nico, for your insights. And thank you, everybody, for listening to us today. Remember by integrating an emotional and also energetic healing practicing, we can create a comprehensive approach to our digestive health. But please remember and listen also and look for any red flags. Don't ignore them. Just take care of yourself. We love you a lot, sending a lots of hugs. Thank you and see you next time.
This is Source Medicine.